Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the hidden and, honestly, pretty rigid mechanics of centralized corporate immigration platforms. We are just skimming the surface here. We're breaking down expert analysis on a really critical question. Basically, when you're setting up your corporate portal to manage employee applications, what decisions do you absolutely have to get right from the very first click? Because, as we'll see, some of these early moves are completely irreversible. Let's deconstruct the exact structural strategies you need to safely configure your account. So instead of just giving you a basic point-and-click software tutorial, we're going to logically dissect the embedded risks here. We'll start with platform rule architecture, then move into irreversible system actions, how to prevent data silos, and wrap up with asymmetric collaboration workflows.
Okay, part 1. Platform role architecture, mapping systemic power and influence.
Now, what's genuinely fascinating here is the extreme contrast in permissions. The system enforces this massive division of power and makes a pretty huge implicit assumption. It assumes the very first person to log in as an administrator should hold disproportionate binding influence over your whole organization. An administrator establishes the entity groups and holds binding signature authority to submit official documents. Meanwhile, a member, they're strictly support. They can help draft forms, sure, but they have absolutely zero structural or signing authority. Wrapping your head around this dynamic is really step one in protecting your corporate setup. And because the administrator controls the entire structural foundation of the account, you literally cannot afford a single point of failure. It's just too risky. So experts mandate establishing at least one backup administrator right away. Think about it. If your one and only admin leaves the company or gets locked out, your entire organization could face total operational gridlock. You've got to allocate this role with strict scrutiny and mandate a minimum of 2 administrators per entity right out of the gate. Moving right along to our second theme, irreversible system actions and the permanence of platform configuration. Before a single login even happens, organizations face this incredibly high-stakes strategic decision. Who actually makes that first move to initiate the corporate group? Should it be your internal staff starting the digital footprint, or should your external legal counsel do it? The sequence here matters so much more than you might think. And here is exactly why that sequence matters. The platform operates on what experts call a no-undo mechanism. It's a rigid systemic rule dictating that once a corporate entity group is initiated within the portal, that action is permanently binding. You cannot delete it, you cannot reverse it. The cause and effect relationship here is pretty stark. A premature or incorrect account creation triggers this mechanism, and boom, you are permanently locked into a flawed organizational structure. Which brings us perfectly to our third risk factor, preventing data silos and navigating legacy account hazards. To combat this digital permanency we just talked about, you need a seriously strict defense strategy. Since you can't undo an account creation, administrators have to execute a precise sequence of verification checks before they do anything. First up, you have to query the database using corporate email domains. Second, cross-reference that using your official corporate tax identification number. You should only proceed with creating a new account once you're verified without a doubt that absolutely zero legacy accounts exist. Because, wow, the consequences of skipping that verification are severe. If you fail to verify existing accounts, you're going to create a duplicate entity, and the architecture of the platform actively prevents you from merging accounts later on, meaning your historical data, past applications, archived legal filings, they will all remain permanently stranded in those legacy accounts, creating these massive unmergeable data silos. It's a total compliance nightmare, and it's entirely preventable if you just check your Tax ID first. Finally, let's dive into Section 4, Asymmetric Collaboration Workflows and Managing External Legal Constraints. This part analyzes the external interplay, exposing some non-obvious constraints built into the collaboration mechanics.
The workflow logic is highly asymmetric and, frankly, pretty non-intuitive. For example, if your internal corporate team originates a document draft, the system permanently blocks your external legal counsel from accessing, viewing, or editing it. They are literally locked out. But flip that around. If the external legal counsel originates the draft, they retain their editing rights, and the corporate internal team gets the ability to review and accept the draft. So the actionable insight from this systemic asymmetry is crystal clear. It's basically a collaborative imperative. To ensure cross-functional visibility, your external legal counsel absolutely must act as the sole originators for all drafts. By having legal initiate the workflow, you allow internal teams to use their review and acceptance rights without accidentally locking anyone out of the process. Synthesizing all of this structural analysis, we arrive at 4 distinct rules to safely navigate this platform. 1. Strictly govern your administrator permissions, but always duplicate them for redundancy. 2. Pre-verify your tax identification data to block unmergeable data silos before creating anything. 3. Externalize draft origination entirely to your legal reps to avoid that lockout trap we just discussed. And 4. Treat literally all initial portal actions as structurally irreversible. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final thought. The mechanics of these centralized platforms are incredibly rigid and entirely unforgiving of early mistakes. So as you plan your operational approach, ask yourself this one critical question. If a single unverified login can permanently strand your organization's legal history, who exactly is authorized to manage your first click? Take the time, plan your architecture carefully, and configure safely. Thanks so much for learning with me today.